I wrote a book called Beasts of Britain. It was about unknown cryptids in the British Isles. And the reason I wrote this book is because a friend of mine challenged me to find other cryptids other than Nessie in the British Isles. And being stubborn and naturally obnoxious, I thought, well, I'll teach this guy. And then I just started blogging it, releasing chapters of the book, and people liked it. And the more I researched, the more I found British Bigfoot reports in the hundreds, Dogman reports, less so, Little People reports, unidentified flying cryptids, Owlman pterosaurs in Britain, which were amazing, and of course the big cats, of which there are many hundreds and hundreds of reports. And I just thought, nobody's written a book about this in Britain. Let's do Beasts of Britain. Let's make it a thing. Let's put our country back on the map. The British Bigfoot, in many cases, represents the Almas of Russia in many of its Neanderthal-like presentations. But for me, I think it has many simian aspects to it, like the American Sasquatch. Most people describe something that's upright, hairy, very thickly muscled. The face is often bare of hair, lightly tanned or very dark and black. Some people describe it as looking like an older sort of chimp of some kind with a flat face, no muzzle, essentially, which is, I think, one of the primary things about Bigfoot sightings. It's this lack of a muzzle that gives the man-like appearance. We have hundreds of sightings all over the country. They always are corroborative, but most importantly, there's no Bigfoot on the brain in Britain. There's no bears. So where are the monster imposters? To match this upright, hairy creature. People say, I saw a giant chimpanzee walking on two legs, or a huge orangutan, or an upright gorilla with a man-like face came at me in the forest. And there's those kinds of details, those very identifying details, or I call that the people reaching into their mental library for a comparative animal with which to compare something unknown that they're seeing. That really convinced me that there is something there. I'm a definite proponent of the plesiosaur theory. If it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's probably an aquatic lizard from the Cretaceous period. I mean, it is what it looks like. Now, people have all kinds of theories. Well, a plesiosaur couldn't possibly arch its neck out of the water because of the bone structure, or these things couldn't stay in the water so long, and they're rarely ever seen coming up for breath. So maybe it's an amphibian of some kind, and it goes on and on and on. But all of this is that they're all exclusions based upon assumptions. We've got the fossils, we've got the pervading paradigm of learning about what we think this fossil creature was capable of and not capable of, but it's not set in stone. We have no real idea what the animal could do. It's all circumstantial. So for the time being, around the world, for the most part, most of the sightings are plesiosaur-like in some description. So that's my bottom line. I'm following the evidence, and I'm not letting presuppositions or paradigms influence what I'm seeing. And a lot of people say, well, it's old-fashioned now. Nobody believes in the plesiosaur theory anymore. They once did, and now somebody does again. I actually really like lake monsters. That's always going to be my thing. It's where I started with Nessie and all of these other creatures years and years ago. But the Salton Cove chameleon, which was seen in Peyton in Devon in 2010, what I love about this lake monster is it was seen in the water chasing fish which were beaching themselves onto the bank. It was also seen coming out of the water onto a seaweed bank, and then it was viewed by one of the witnesses changing colour from dark green brown to black. And then as it headed off after the fish again, the colour changed back to green brown. It was camouflage on top of the dark seaweed. That's the only case I've ever heard of something like this camouflaging that made me think, what if these creatures can camouflage? They're often described as being many different colours, dark colours, black, green, dark brown, green, grey. What if they can change colour? Could this be the reason we can't find them? And that's been my all-time favourite cryptid sighting, at least anyway. I think it depends on whose ground they were fighting. The Yeti is smaller, by far, isn't it? It's a smaller creature than the North American Sasquatch, which allegedly can reach 10 feet, 12 feet. In some instances. I think the North American Sasquatch would probably be the polar bear of this variety of unknown ape. Out of all of them, out of the Yerin and the Almas and the Woodwows and orang pendek and everything else out there, and the Yeti especially, we're looking at the primary species, maybe especially in the Pacific Northwest, where conditions are viable for a huge creature to live and survive and get all of the food that it needs. So I would say the Sasquatch every time. Nessie. Nessie is often reported to be much bigger than Champ. Champ is possibly, and I'm not sure what some of the other researchers would say, is possibly a different type of creature to Nessie. In speciation, possibly a Tanistropheus. I know that's not popular anymore either. And I think Nessie it's the plesiosaur of some kind, and reports at 20 feet to 40 feet. And even amongst all of the other lake monsters and sea monsters in and around Britain, the Nessie reports are normally the biggest ones. It's a bigger body of water, for example. So I think Nessie would definitely take out Champ any day of the week.